Hey everybody, welcome back to Two Guys Talking Houses. There is a new Trump appointee for Fed Chair, Mr. Kevin Warsh, and Mark and I are going to talk about that today. So Mark, Kevin Warsh, and no, I'm not from the Midwest. I'm not saying the word wash with an R added in there. His name is actually Kevin Warsh. So tell me what you've been following this a little bit closer than me. You know, you're the lender, you're the finance guy. So what's the deal? Is this guy going to come in there and just cut 300 basis points like the president wants him to?
Right off the bat, first meeting for sure. But as far as the guy goes, you know, he's he is super smart. He went to Harvard. He out of Harvard went to I believe it was Morgan Stanley in mergers and acquisitions.
Okay,
like in '95, and then one of the Bush brought him in as an advisor, financial advisor to his presidency. And then he was actually on the board of governors for the Fed back like 2006 to 2011. So what happened between 2006 and 2011?
Well, there was a nice big old financial crash that the housing market was at the center of.
Yeah, it was a fun time in the lending industry.
Yeah.
You know, you wanted to get the deal closed before the company you were brokering the loan to went out of business.
Yeah.
And they actually had a website at that time to keep track of all the companies that had shut down during that time. So literally, we would go to a closing, and then they'd sign all the papers, and then we'd be told, hey, guess what? They can't fund the loan because they just went out of business today.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's
crazy time
yeah.
on our side. It was crazy time kind of all over, and to, navigate through that. Do you know how long Fed governors are appointed for?
Oh, man. You would ask me this.
Pop quiz.
I know, but I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, 14 years.
14 years. Okay, and then once you're a governor, you can only serve one term, right?
Well, no, you can serve a maximum of 14 unless you take over somebody's partially expired term.
Okay.
So if somebody serves for 5 years, you could actually serve for 9 more years of his term and then another 14 of yours.
Yeah.
In theory.
But in order to be Fed chair, you have to have been a governor at some point in time.
Right.
So his service was those 5 years.
Yeah, one of the first complaints is, oh, he's not a Fed governor. But he was a Fed governor. And if you do the math, there's not 14 years between 2006 and 2011.
Right.
So what happened?
So he left and went to the private sector, as far as I understand it.
Yeah, he basically said, hey, I really want to be out of this limelight. I want to go back into kind of the private sector, what he was doing before. He enjoyed that more. And so, he left vacancy. Somebody else took over. I've forgotten who is by this point. But the point is that, hey, he's been there before. Now, when he was there, was he dovish or hawkish?
That I don't know, but
I
bet you do.
Do you know what that means?
I do know what that means. So, I know the loose definition of what it means. I know hawkish means we're a little bit tighter with the monetary policy. We're not cranking up the money printer. Right. We're more concerned about inflation than we are about unemployment, and dovish would kind of be the inverse of that. We're more concerned about unemployment than we are about inflation. And, as they say, Jerome Powell used to make the money printer go boom. That's kind of what they're hoping. I know a lot of people are, at least in the housing industry, hoping that we may see something like that, but be careful what you wish for.
Right. Be careful what you wish for. But interesting thing, he was certainly more towards the hawkish side, and that's been a concern. I mean,
when he was a governor.
Yeah, when he was a governor. And really, his comments since, have been definitely on that side of things. But and what Trump wants is, more of a dovish, hey, we're going to lower rates, right? To get this economy going and see our housing industry improve. And so, first of all, the housing industry has improved.
Yeah.
Because rates have improved. But, of course, a little more wouldn't hurt.
Sure.
So he would kind of be the least likely candidate, you would think. However, basically what he's saying is like, hey, as long as Trump's in office, I am happy being a dove.
Yeah. That comment is so interesting to me that, I will be dovish as long as Trump is in office. But in reality, a lot of people, and, his track record would show a hawkish track record, because that was the one complaint with Jerome Powell, is that, he was basically uncontrollable by Trump. And so that comment alone kind of signals to me that Trump is going to have more control over this particular Fed chair, just in the nature of that comment that he made. I will do basically what Trump wants me to do, and not so many words. Yeah.
Do you know why?
Well, I mean, maybe he doesn't want the same relationship that Trump has with Jerome Powell.
I don't think anybody would,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, that guy's not his favorite. He's not getting Christmas cards from Trump for sure.
That's for
right?
sure.
But it turns out that Warsh's family and Trump's family go way back.
Yeah.
Because they have a connection. And I think you mentioned this when we were talking earlier. He's actually connected through the Estee Lauder family. He married into it. And so those two families, Trump's and have been friends for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And they've been in each other's lives. And so there's a sense of loyalty there that, hey, you know what, I'm going to come in and do, basically what you're asking me to do, but not, he can't go all of a sudden, let's drop it 300 basis points. Like the economy being chaos, first of all. And second of all, he's got to get the other guys on board.
Well, that's the other thing. The other guys have to vote, right? Because it's a majority. So
and gals. Guys
say that again.
The guys and girls, to be fair, because there's
there's some gals as Fed governors.
Absolutely. So Cook, the one that he tried to get fired, that Trump tried to get fired.
Yeah.
So she point is that you can't dictate these things.
Right.
It's just like Trump. He could say he wants to put this into law. He still needs Congress and the Senate.
Yeah.
To make it happen.
Well, in the spirit of this show being titled Two Guys Talking Houses and not Two Guys Talking Fed Chair, we always end up on, finance, which I think is very important. And it's inescapable from housing.
Right.
But I think a lot of people listen to the show, trying to learn about what this means for the housing industry. So from your perspective, what does this change signal to you for what the housing market might look like in the second half of this year?
Well, if we just look at the Fed rates, even though we know they're not directly tied to mortgage rates, but it certainly has an influence. And as we've talked about before, it's really the expectation that moves the mortgage rate, not the actual execution.
Yeah.
So this time when they made the Fed announcement, this last time it was like, oh, you didn't change it at all. We knew that.
Yeah.
And we believe that one of the reasons that the market has picked up so much, 20% or so up in mortgage applications, has been because nobody's out there yelling, hey, the Fed's going to cut rates in, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like there's no news out there like that. So people are like, oh, well, I guess they're not going down anytime soon. I might as well buy a house.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't see any cut happening statistically. Nobody believes there's going to be anything in the next 2 meetings.
Yeah, Powell's not doing a damn thing before he's done.
And he's out, May 15th.
So the June meeting would be the first meeting.
The June meeting, there's about a 51% chance that we're going to see a cut of a quarter.
So, and that's a perfect segue into the confirmation process. So Powell's out May 15th.
Right.
The June meeting is several weeks. Let's just call it 1 month after that. What's the likelihood that Warsh is, I feel so funny saying that. I want to say Washer and Dryer, but what is the likelihood that Mr. Warsh will be confirmed and in that position by the June meeting? And what would happen if he's not?
It's interesting because you think like, okay, it has to go through the Senate confirmation.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to grill him.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to, the Democrats are going to come out like, hey, why are you changing your attitude here? Why are you changing your stance?
Yeah.
You're going with Trump. Orange guy bad, remember? So, why are you going with that? Why are you changing your stance? And why are you doing, they're going to ask all sorts of questions. I don't think there's anything standing in the way. Like there's not anything major standing. The guy has been, I don't want to say a Boy Scout, but I mean, he's done a good job. In the past, he's been a Fed governor before. Like there's no reason, and he's done well in the private sector. He was instrumental during the 2008 meltdown and helping put that mess back together, and really 2010 2011 is when he got out, but that's when things really started to make some progress in getting some of those laws changed and all the things that were going on, and he spoke into some of that. And so point is I don't see it being a problem, so I think that he should get confirmed.
Well, I think what's interesting is that he was a governor during the crash.
Yeah.
I do like that, actually. He navigated a serious housing crash during the time that he was a Fed governor. That's important. And I'm sure that there will be a lot of politicking and I'm sure a list that we won't talk about on this show will probably be brought up because that's just how things go in Washington. That's not what we do on this show. But, just like looking into the future as to what will happen, I think we're going to see some roadblocks set up for this gentleman, just because, that's the nature. If it was a Democrat in office and they appointed somebody, it would be the same way. In fairness, we're not, making a political statement necessarily, but it's, one of those things that, like, because that meeting is so soon after Powell's gone, it is worth asking, like, will he be in that position by that time? And let's say, for example, that he's not, they can't get the votes. What happens at the June meeting? Do we even know? Or is it just...
that's a great question. There are vice chairs, that if the current chairman is unavailable or unable to serve, I've never asked that question. I've never really thought, like, what happens if there's not one confirmed by then?
Yeah.
Because it would be unusual for it not to have happened by then.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
It's not like it's tomorrow. So, and Trump waited till basically right after the last Fed announcement, to announce this is what he's doing.
This is my appointee.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's also important to note that the last meeting, there have been so many meetings where it's like unanimous.
Yeah.
And then the last year or so, that hasn't been the case. And, so they had 2 dissenting votes this time.
Mm-hmm.
So, now you've got a dovish Fed chairman in there, and you've got dissenting votes. Like, there is a good possibility it could swing some things, down the road. But statistically, if you look at the probability charts, it basically shows one cut in June and maybe a 30% cut or 30% chance of a cut for the rest of the year.
So we're looking at 2 cuts under Warsh's,
possible. Yeah, quarter each.
Yeah.
It's not going to be 300 basis points.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Pulte.
Yeah,
not gonna happen.
So he may do Trump's bidding, but he's not doing Bill Pulte's. But I think Trump would, in fairness, would probably like the 300 basis point because he likes the theatrics. And okay. So as a mortgage loan officer,
back to that. Yes.
What would 1 to 10 this appointee by Trump? Where would you rate him as far as how well or how 1 being horrible? He's horrible for the housing industry. 10 being he's going to give us the best year in housing that we've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably 7.
7. Okay. So not a bad appointee.
I think he's a good appointee. How much effect he's going to have actually on mortgage rates, that's to be seen.
Yeah.
If we look at mortgage rates now, I mean, geez, I think the 30-year mortgage average right now is somewhere in the 6.25-ish range, still, and it hasn't moved much. I had a buyer reach out to me today. I heard rates went down, and I'm looking at him going like, yeah, not really.
Yeah.
Like it didn't go down much, if at all. And so I think the national average rate went down like 1 basis point.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not really a drop, lady, since we locked her loan. So now they've gone up and come back down. But because, while they're under contract, they always want the lowest rate, right?
Yep.
So they always go, I heard rates went down. Yeah, they did, but they went up first. So they're back where they were.
Exactly.
So, but I don't, we would be elated to see something with a 5 handle, on a 30-year conventional fixed rate mortgage. But it's probably going to be 5.875, 5.75. And to be clear,
where would FHA be at that point?
It's funny. FHA's done a little better. I saw 5.625 on Friday with no points.
No kidding. Yeah.
Buying it down. Now I should be quoting the APR and all that, but we'll say about 5.625.
Okay.
It depends on, but yeah, I mean, it might be a 5.5 at that point, and you always have to keep in mind, like when we're talking rates, I always have been of the mind that I'm going to look at it with no buy down. We're not buying down that rate at all with a discount point or an origination point or a, you got to pay me so my kids can have nice shoes point or whatever you want to call it. Like, let's just cut all that out and say, okay, this is your straight up rate. Now, if you want to buy it down from there, okay, let's have that conversation.
Yeah.
And I've got the investor that's paying 5 discount points right now to have 5% because she just wants to have the best rate at parties.
There you go.
But that's okay. It is what it is. If that's what you want to do, they're likely to pay the stupid thing off before it ever makes sense, because you'd have to have it 5 years to have that investment make sense in monthly savings.
Right. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm very interested to see, what happens after Kevin Warsh gets appointed. It's been interesting because, the markets have, you think about the stock market, real estate, interest rates, mortgage bonds, crypto, even. It's been kind of a mixed bag depending on what you're invested in as to, whether it's gone up or down or looked good or bad. So we'll see. Kevin
Yeah.
Warsh, he's our new guy.
You know what I'd be interested to see is, we've been doing this a while. We've got some followers.
Yeah.
We've got subscribers. We could always use more.
Mm-hmm.
But, maybe in the comments, I'd be interested to see what people watching think rates will be, by the end of this year.
Yeah, drop that in the comments, guys. I think that's a perfect place to leave it. What do you think mortgage interest rates will be, FHA and conventional, by the end of 2026? And we will see you in the next episode.